best CPP groups that we've had so far. So thank you all for being you. Thank you for being so engaged, and thank you for keeping. Hey, everyone. This is Save Your Sons here this morning. Thank you all for joining me and for being, well, I'm being serious now. This is one of, if not the best CPP groups that we've had so far. So thank you all for being you. Thank you for being so engaged, and thank you for keeping CPP so much fun, even for us moderators and us people who are helping run it. And today we're going to talk about something that has been on everybody's mind for months. We did a great space on similar ideas this morning, but it's something that's been getting a lot of attention lately since Elon Musk has now been in charge of Twitter for about half a year and has changed a lot of things around. And that has impacted what we're going to talk about today, which is Twitter growth and the Twitter algorithm. And so what we're going to do today is talk more broadly about some of the strategies, the latest and greatest, the newest, the freshest, the late breaking strategies that I use, that other people, other moderators use to grow their Twitter followings in this new reality where Elon Musk is the owner, and they're optimizing things differently than they would have like a year ago. So that's what we're going to talk about. Are you ready to dig in? Me too. I can't wait. So here you go. What are we going to talk about today? What's on the agenda? First things first, we're going to talk about how the algorithm actually works in light of 2023, summer 2023. How does the algorithm actually function right now today? And remember, it's always changing, but this is, like I said, the latest and greatest that you're getting in CPP. We'll talk about its function, how you can exploit that as we understand it right now today. Then we're going to talk about some analytics, a couple really high-level things that you need to know, that you need to monitor if you want to optimally grow your Twitter following. We'll talk about a few different types of growth-focused content, and there's a couple things in here that are pretty new that I've recently started doing that are a result of some of the changes that the Musk regime has brought on. We'll talk about retweeting yourself, how to retweet your own content, and when to post, and when you should post if you want to maximize the reach that you get. And then finally, we will talk about the big secret. That's right, the big secret that nobody knows, that you're getting exclusively here, that is going to be maybe more obvious than you thought. But I'm going to save what it is. I'm going to save the reveal for the very end. Okay. So first things first, we are going to talk about the algorithm. And I say this in every CPP. And the algorithm's changed since we started doing this a couple of years ago. But the general function of the algorithm is always the same. It's always the same, and that is to drive attention, to get people hooked on Twitter. The algorithm's purpose is that it wants people spending as much time as humanly possible using Twitter. It wants people, the millions and millions of people who use Twitter every day, it wants them to spend more hours on it. That is what it does. And the more attention people are paying to the app, then, of course, the more Twitter can charge for advertising, and that's how they make money, at least right now. And probably for the foreseeable future. So how does Twitter measure that attention? This is where things are getting interesting as things change today. So it's always measured that attention through engagement. It's always done that, and it has always counted engagement as like your likes, your retweets, your comments, things like that. So it would assign a point to an engagement point to the engagements that your content gets as a signal that people that are liking your content. So it shows it to more people because it gets more people spending time on the app. But it's also measuring that attention now more than ever through the time spent. And this is important. We're going to talk more about this in a minute. The time spent engaging on the content. So like if you post a meme that people look at for half a second and they might like it, they might even retweet it, they might even comment on it. But if they're only on there for half a second, it's not going to get the same algorithm boost as a long form tweet or a thread or a tweet that drives a ton of comments that people spend 10 minutes reading through all the comments. If people are spending, or even videos are an important one. If people are spending multiple minutes engaging on your content, that's a great signal for the Twitter algorithm that this is getting people spending more time on the app because they're literally doing that. And so it's going to boost that and show it to many, many more people. All right. So if you're driving good engagement on your tweets, the algorithm loves that. It wants more of that, and so it's going to show your stuff to more people. That's literally at its highest, simplest level how you gain a following organically is you post content that people spend time engaging on, and Twitter's algorithm sees that and rewards that by showing it to new people who are like the other people who have engaged, who have spent time engaging. So you post that, people like it, people spend time on it, the algorithm says, okay, we need more of this, I'm going to show this to more people since it's proving that it works, and on and on and on, and you create this virtuous cycle and this feedback loop. And that's why ultimately, I talk about this a lot too, tweeting for quote engagement is actually good to an extent. That's this uncommon advice that a lot of gurus won't say. So, you should never tweet for engagement. Well, we'll talk about that. You should tweet for engagement to some extent, because if you ever want to grow, you need people engaging and spending time on your content, and you need to do it in a way that yes, showcases your authority and your expertise, but also that goes for maximum scale and as many people commenting and engaging on this as possible so that you can spread your attention as wide as possible. All right, so I hinted at the recent changes to the algorithm, And this is one of the biggest things that I have noticed recently that's really changed in the past, call it 4, 5, 6 months. And the big change is Twitter wants conversations. And the time spent on your content, the time people spend reading your content matters more than ever. It matters more than ever. So like the likes, the comments, the retweets, the bookmarks, that stuff matters still. But what matters more is the length of time that people spend looking at and engaging on your content. And that includes all of the comments down below your content, and it includes all of the tweets that you add into a thread. So think about it like this. Twitter is interested in being the real-time hub of conversation for the world. That's what they want. They want people not just engaging, but they want people conversing on their app. They want conversations. They want people talking about your content. And they're going to reward this type of content, if you post it, with more impressions versus content that people just passively observe and consume in a couple of seconds and move on. They're going to reward that much less. But if you're posting content that drives conversations, of course, if you're driving a conversation, that means people are spending more time engaging, and that clock keeps ticking. It keeps spinning. Every time someone looks at your tweet, a clock starts spinning. A clock starts going. And the longer that clock goes, the longer they're spending looking at your tweet, the more it's going to get served, the more it's going to get shown to people. And that's why conversations do a really good job of driving that. And that's what Twitter wants. So you have this entire algorithm pushing toward, we want people engaging. We want people spending a ton of time on our app. And so we're going to measure the time they spend, or if they're having conversations, even better. And that's when tweets go really, really viral and get pushed just to millions and millions of people when they're driving that type of attention. All right, so an example, like when I say Twitter wants conversations, you might be thinking, okay, well, that means I should post questions, right? I want to start a conversation, and I do that by posting questions. And that's true, that's great. So but there's a good type of question and a bad type of question. So if a good type of question might be, what, let me reframe that. So let's say you're asking a question for engagement because you want to get pushed by the algorithm. If you're asking a question, don't ask a question that people want to answer for themselves, but they don't care about the other answers. Do you see the distinction of what I'm saying? It's much more valuable to ask a question where people want to see what other people are saying. Because remember, the purpose of the algorithm is to drive conversation so that people spend more time on content, or that just people spend time on the content. So if you're going to ask a question, you want questions that people care about other people's opinions. So a good example of this type of question might be a good question. What's the main thing that causes marriages to end in a divorce? In your opinion, why do 40% of marriages end in divorce, or whatever? Everyone's going to want to see what people are saying to that, what people are answering to that. And so they're going to spend a long time scrolling through all the answers, because psychologically they want to make sure that they aren't guilty of any of these things, because they don't want to get divorced. So they're going to be like, oh, let me go see if I'm doing this stuff so I can stop doing it. Versus A bad question, a bad example, I've tweeted this recently to bad results, was something like, what's the most important trait in a great father? And of course, people love giving their opinion on this, but they don't care nearly as much about other people's opinions. So a ton of people will answer this and then move on. They didn't go and read what other people were saying because they didn't care, not nearly as much as they'd care in this first example. So the time people spent on content with a question like this is going to be much lower, and it's going to get rewarded less in the algorithm because people might answer, and okay, that's leaving a comment, that's an engagement, but it's not causing them to spend a ton of time and go investigate what everyone else is saying. So to summarize, in Musk's world, Twitter 2.0, this is your mental model for creating content for growth. This is really all you need. If you fit into this, then you're going to grow on Twitter. And forget about all the other hacks. There is no hack. It's just create content that does these things. So does your content drive conversation? Does it encourage people not just to comment, but also to read other comments? Not just comment themselves, but also to go see what other people are saying, and even better if they respond back to those. And then are people spending a lot of time on your content? Are people spending minutes versus seconds engaging with, reading, watching, whatever it is, your content? If they are, that's when impressions get up into the millions. But if people only see something for half a second and then that's it, then impressions are going to stay stagnant. That's how you do it. Create content that does these things. And we could stop here today. We could stop here. That's really all you need, like I said, but this is CPP, so we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop. Drive conversations. Post things that people want to see what other people are saying about those things, and post things that get people engaging for a long time. And that's it. So you're probably saying, okay, high level engagement is good. That's basically what you're telling us. And yes, if you want to grow, engagement is good, and know that is not earth shattering. But it is important to know that the type of engagement matters. You want deep engagement rather than wide engagement for maximum reach, and that's where this time spent really factors in. And next, we're going to look at what different types of engagement you should be measuring based on what analytics are available to us to know the general health of your content and to see if you're tweeting the kind of content that will drive followers as we dig into one of my favorite subjects of all time, Twitter analytics. And we won't get too terribly deep into this because I don't think you need to get too deep into analytics. Analytics are a helpful tool to make sure that you aren't doing anything drastically wrong with your account and that nothing is wrong with your account, like from a software side or your shadow banned or whatever. But you shouldn't be too overly focused on analytics, especially in the early stages of your account and your brand, because you really want instead to be focused on writing great content and writing the types of content that does this stuff versus like getting really obsessed with, well, how many impressions am I getting versus profile clicks? We'll talk about that stuff, but at the end of the day, focus on writing great content. And the first thing we're going to talk, and there's two things that I think if you are going to look at analytics that you need to care about, and you can sweep everything else under the rug. First thing is your likes to impressions ratio. And the second thing is your profile clicks to follows ratio. And I'll explain what those are real quick. So first, look at this, the likes to impressions ratio. And we've got a couple of example tweets right here from my feed. We've got this quote that I put out, this African proverb about a boy who isn't loved by his village. He burns his village down just to feel his village's warmth. And that's a great, powerful quote. And by the way, if you're ever stuck on content, you can fire up a quote like this. I used to do them a lot more. I need to start doing them again. But they're always good in a pinch if you don't know what else to post. And you can see they can do quite well on Twitter, even in Twitter 2.0. Where we're measuring time spent engaging more than anything else. Quotes can do that to a good extent. So this is the first tweet. The second one I've got, which is the highest ROI skills you can master as a man in your 20s. Learn how to cook a few basic meals from scratch. Okay, so those are my two tweets. And the first one, the quote tweet, you can see it did relatively well for me. And the second one did relatively poorly, or really poorly for me. And you might look at the like count alone and make that same conclusion. But I want everyone here to go one little layer deeper with me. So we're going to open up the analytics on Twitter, which, if you don't know, is those three little lines in the bottom right-hand corner of your tweets. It is only visible to you. It's not visible to anybody else if they're not logged into your account. You click those lines and you get this view of your tweets. And what I want to draw your attention to is not just how many likes each post got, but how many likes each post got relative to their impressions. So yeah, this first tweet got a ton more likes than this one, but it did so on only 219,000 impressions. So if you do the math, you see what that means is it means out of every 53 people that saw this tweet, one of them liked it, which is really, really high. That's a good ratio. That means a high proportion of the people who see this tweet are also engaging with it by liking it. And remember, the algorithm loves that. That's good for us. It means it's going to get pushed. It's going to drive our engagement, and it's going to get more eyeballs on our account. Versus if you look at the second tweet, so yeah, the second tweet, it got way less likes than the first tweet, but also it took more impressions to get there. So 91,000 impressions only netted us 770 likes. And that ratio, if you do the math, comes out to 118 to 1, meaning for every 118 people who saw the tweet, only one of them liked it. So it's more than twice as bad as the 53 to 1 on the quote tweet on the left. And this tells us way more people passed on engaging with this tweet than on the first tweet. And that's bad. The algorithm sees that and it goes, oh, wait, maybe this guy isn't what we thought he was. He isn't getting people engaging on our app like he has in the past. And all of a sudden you're in danger of the algorithm then deprioritizing your content, showing you to less and less people, and thereby growing much slower because you no longer have the reach. So the closer to 1-to-1 that your ratio is, the lower your ratio, I guess, the better off you are. So how do you practically use this information as a content creator yourself? Don't use my numbers for it. Don't use this. Don't try to make this your benchmark. Don't use anybody else's numbers for it. Use your own numbers. So go look at like 10 to 15 of your recent tweets over the past couple weeks and figure out your baseline ratio. Maybe it's 100 to 1, maybe it's 150 to 1, maybe it's 50 to 1. If it is, you're doing great. Whatever your baseline is, your goal is to just tuck that number away, write it down somewhere, and make sure that you are always at that baseline and or trending better. So you never want to start getting worse than your baseline. If you are, that's a sign that your content might be getting weaker, that people aren't liking it the way they once were. And if you stay in that zone for too long, you're going to start getting deprioritized by the algorithm and your growth is going to slow down. So find that baseline, figure out where you're at right now, and just make sure that you're never getting worse than that, and preferably that you're getting better than that over time. So like as an example, if I had a string of tweets that were 100 to 1, 105 to 1, 110 to 1, 120 to 1, I would think, well, okay, that maybe something's wrong here. Something might be wrong with my content, unless those were all just going viral. Like if they had millions and millions of impressions, then I don't care as much about this. But if it's a standard tweet for me and all of a sudden my ratio is getting higher and higher, 100 to 1 versus 50 to 1, I know something's wrong. Versus if I have a string of tweets that are like 50 to 1, 45 to 1, then I know that people are really liking my content, and that's good. A high ratio of people who see it are also liking it, and that's a good signal for Twitter to keep boosting it. All right, a couple important caveats, like I just hinted at on this measurement. If you have a thread or something, or even like a meme or something that's going really, really viral, then it's going to have a poor likes to impressions ratio as we defined it above. And the reason is because people are, again, they're spending a long time engaging on this thread. And so it's getting spread out far and wide in the algorithm. So here's an example of a thread I posted a few months ago. And the likes to impressions ratio is horrible compared to these. It's even worse than this bad example tweet. But I don't see that and think that's a problem, because it also got 2 million impressions and drove these crazy high numbers of profile visits and converted like 1,000 followers that day. Don't look at this number. This number is always wrong. But it converted out of 3,600. I usually get like a 30% conversion rate. So it was like 1,000 plus followers that day. So I don't care about my ratio in this case. Because this one is out. This was an outlier because it's a thread, because people are spending so much time engaging on it. It gets pushed well beyond one of your more standard pieces of content like this. And the second thing the second caveat is if you're using like engagement groups or something, then this is not useful to you. So forget about it, because you're artificially inflating your engagement, and you just don't know what your true baseline is because you have all these people who are engaging on it because they're in the group. All right. So that's your likes to impressions ratio. Really important. Find your baseline and make sure you're slowly improving it over time. But don't put too much stock into it if it's a thread or something that's going really viral, or you're using engagement groups really heavily. But if you're paying attention to this stuff and you're monitoring your ratio, and you're making sure that it's getting better over time, you can be sure that your content is getting pushed the way it should be by the algorithm. The next analytic thing we're going to talk about is profile clicks. Profile clicks. And for my money, profile clicks are the most important metric when it comes to follower growth. And there are no caveats for this one. This one matters no matter what. And for profile clicks, a really simple way to think about it is the more profile clicks, the better. You want your profile click number to be as high as possible, and you can measure it in the same way using a ratio if you want. I generally like to see at least 250 profile clicks for every 100,000 impressions. That's my kind of baseline. And if I'm doing better than that, then I know that's good. I know that content is making people curious to go look at my profile. If I'm doing worse than that, then that's bad. But again, throw that out the window if you have a massively viral thing like this thread I just mentioned, because if it's massively viral, then your gross numbers are going to matter more than anything else. So in short, the most important thing you want to do with your profile clicks is to just watch them over time and pay attention to the types of tweets that give you high numbers. So look for patterns. Maybe when you tweet about your revenue with your business, like you're doing FBA and you're crushing it, and you tweet about that and it drives way more profile clicks than your other stuff, that's a good clue that that type of tweet is going to drive followers for you. So keep an eye on this metric. I look at it every day, multiple times a week at least, and only for a few minutes at a time, and just try to identify what types of content is driving the highest profile clicks for you. Once I find those patterns, I make more of that type of content, and that's it. Another slightly more advanced thing you can do while we're talking about profile clicks, I'll stop clicking around. I know that's distracting. A more advanced thing you can do is add up all of your profile clicks that you get over the course of a day, and then go look at how many follows you gained that day. So if you drove 100 profile clicks over the course of a day from your tweets, based on this measurement, don't look at twitteranalytics.com. Only look at these. Twitteranalytics.com is wrong. So look at these, and you drove 100 over the course of a day and you gained 50 new followers. Well, that would tell you that you roughly had a 50% conversion rate that day, which is great. But if you drove 100 profile clicks and you only gained 5 that day, well, now that tells you that you're at a 5% conversion rate, which would mean either something is really, really wrong with your branding. Like when people get to your profile, they see your stuff and they just have an allergic reaction and they go away. Or the tweet that drove all of those profile clicks drove them for some other reason than people actually wanting to check out your content. Like if you tweeted like, hey, I just updated my bio or something. Of course, that's going to drive a lot of profile clicks, but it won't convert as many followers. And we wouldn't recommend you tweet that kind of stuff anyway. So there you go. That's it on analytics. I told you I'd try to keep it brief. A couple big things to think about, but really focus on content. And content is what we're going to talk about next. We're going to look at a few different types of content, types of tweets that I found recently have been really good for growth. And these concepts are a little bit more advanced. So ask questions in the chat if you want me to explain anything. But these are meant to give you guidance. I'll be answering questions all day. But these are meant to give you some kind of guidance on the types of tweets to think about and to write that will maximize your growth. These have been proven, tested over and over again to work. So internalize these and put them into your content cadence. And we are going to talk about 4 different types of tweets. 4 different types of tweets. We'll talk about the account definition tweet, which is patented by me. Not really, because you can't patent that type of thing, but it's something that I use and that all of my clients use to great success. And we'll talk about 1-2 punch tweets. I'll tell you what that means. We'll talk about questions, and we'll talk about long form tweets. 4 types of content that you can use to grow. And you'll notice that threads aren't on here. Threads are obviously a great piece of long form content to use to grow, but there's whole modules about that coming up later in CPP. So I've left them out of this one. All right, first, account definition tweets. What does that mean? What is an account definition tweet? I do these once every 3 to 4 months, and it's good for a shot in the arm, follower wise. You don't want to do these too often because they're going to wear out their efficacy over time. But look at how powerful this is when you do it right. This particular tweet right here, this is an old screenshot, the old analytics interface, but this gained me over 2,500 followers in one day. And this was one of the first times I used the account definition tweet. This was a few years ago. But it was 30 seconds of work, and I gained 2,500 followers. And you see how it's right there in the profile clicks. Profile clicks, 5,000 profile clicks. So if your branding is on point and your pin tweet is good, then those profile clicks are going to convert to followers. I mean, that's how it works. They see this, they go to your profile, they convert. This other one, I gained about 2,500 followers in that day as well. This was a couple years later, and all I did was overlay the same copy on an image and tweet the image. I mean, like, minimize the work for outsized effort. That's what we're all about. And I got the same type of response to this one. So why do these work? What is an account definition tweet? Why do they work? They work because they're what I call an up funnel tweet. An up funnel tweet. An account definition tweet is up funnel. And what that means is basically it's an ad for people who aren't aware of your account. It's advertising to people who are seeing this for the first time who this account is for. So my copy, what I'm doing is I'm defining my account for anyone seeing the tweet, coming across my content for the first time, and I'm identifying who my ideal customer or follower is, and I'm putting it right there in plain English. So anyone who's my ideal customer or follower is going to see this tweet, then they're clicking my profile, and they're going to follow because of how I wrote the tweet. So I challenge you, all of you, use this right here, this copy right here, as a template. And think about how you could create this type of up funnel tweet for your account. And like I said, I use this with our private one-on-one clients all the time. And we had a guy one-on-one who did one of these, and I retweeted it. I sent it to our network to get shared, and he gained 2,000 followers in 2 days. And I've coached several other guys who do it, and they get 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 followers doing these types of tweets. The best we ever saw was we had a client who used a tweet like this and gained 10,000 followers in one day. I kid you not. 10,000 followers in one day from an account definition tweet, from these types of tweets. That's the results that we've seen. That's how powerful these are. If you can get impressions on them, these are powerful tweets, and everyone can write one. So account definition tweets, to sum them up, what they do is they answer the question or the questions: why does your account exist? What are you doing here? What is your purpose? Who is your ideal follower? And how are you going to change their lives? That's it. That's what an account definition tweet does. You're putting out a beacon for your audience. You're catching everyone who's at the top of the funnel at all, who would ever resonate with your message, and they're going to click follow when they see this type of tweet. All right, so the next type of growth tweet we're going to talk about is what I call 1-2 punch tweets. 1-2 punch tweets, and I use these still fairly frequently. I've kind of replaced these with the longer form tweet, but these are still good. And what these are simple. So basically, you're going to start out with like a short one-liner platitude, or maybe even a meme or something. You'll see me doing that. Something relatively simple, and you can still make it cool if you can. Platitudes can still be cool. They don't have to be like drink water, or you can do it if you just have discipline. We've all seen those types of accounts. You're going to put a little more effort into your stuff than that. But you start out with a tweet that you're writing it really just because it's going to get more engagement. People are going to see it and be like, oh, that hits. That's good. I'm going to share that. Then when it starts to take off, you're going to follow up with deeper insights or more value on the original platitude or the original meme that you posted. So I've got this example. This is an older example, but it's still relevant. I've got this right here. If you think a gym membership is expensive, just wait till you see how expensive it is to be old and frail. So on its own, that tweet, really, it's a platitude. And it got great engagement. It popped off really well. But on its own, it probably wouldn't attract the best followers because it's pretty basic. It's probably just too basic. But when you follow it up with more knowledge, like how you can eat healthy for cheap, how much you can spend on healthy food versus crappy food, you're appealing to a more discerning type of follower, a more discerning type of social media consumer, which is what you want. In other words, what you're doing is you're maximizing your reach with this basic tweet, which are always going to get shared more. But you're also separating yourself from the basic platitude only accounts by actually showing off a little bit about what you know. So you aren't just getting brain dead platitude junkies to follow you. Excuse me, you're catching the attention of smarter people who think, hey, maybe there's more depth to this guy. I'm going to follow him and see what he's all about. And that's a really powerful way to attract smart followers, which is what we all want. We want discerning folks, presumably with disposable income. We do that by maximizing our reach with a simple tweet and then following it up with more thought and authority, showing that we actually know a few things as well. Here's another example. Your physique speaks louder than your words ever will. Again, kind of a platitude, cool platitude, but still a platitude. But then you follow it up with some humor, and all of a sudden you're casting this wide net. It's going to get a ton of views, and then so you're exposed to more people, and they're going to see this piece. A certain proportion of them are also going to see this one and be like, "Oh, this is not just a stupid platitude. This is actually kind of funny. Let me see what this guy's all about." So that's 1-2 punch tweets. Next is question tweets. Question tweets. And this one is really, really important now with the new algorithm. The new algorithm, remember, we've talked about this. What the algorithm's doing is it's rewarding attention, and it's measuring attention by engagement, and it's measuring attention by how much time people are spending on that engagement. So I can't prove this. I've never seen this proven, but my guess is you could have a tweet with 1,000 likes if everyone spent a tenth of a second just liking it and not even reading it, versus that tweet would perform less well than a tweet with 100 likes that people spent 5 minutes reading, or than a piece of content that people spent 5 minutes engaging with. So 1,000 likes, if everyone just sees it, likes it, and moves on, it's going to get less impressions than 100 likes if everyone's spending 5 minutes reading and engaging on the content. That's how important time is now in the algorithm. And one of the ways to get people to spend a ton of time, again, is to ask questions. So we recommend, you look at me and AOP's timeline, we tack questions on almost every piece of content. Almost every time we tweet anything, there's a question attached to it. And this is why, because we want people spending a ton of time engaging on our stuff. And one of the ways to do that is to get them responding and to get people interested in reading other people's responses. And that virtuous cycle then goes on and on. So you ask questions like this. You can do a list tweet like this one and add a question to the end. Subjects that should be mandatory in schools, list them out. What would you add? People are going to answer that. They're going to spend time answering it. The clock's running. And then they're going to spend time reading other people's answers. The clock's running again. And then you get this insane number of views, 8.5 million views. And I can't remember this. I think these analytics are from this one, but like 2 million views on this one and 7,000 profile visits. I mean, that's incredible. You're going to gain thousands of followers on a day like that. And I did on this one and on this one. On this day, I remember I think I gained like 5,000 or 6,000 followers, maybe more, from this one tweet because I got 8.5 million views. You can go back in Social Blade and see what I gained on January 15th, 23. All right, so that's how you use questions. Tack questions on. Just get in the habit. Asking questions, asking people to respond. What do you think? Do you agree or not? Do you agree or disagree with this? You can do it on memes. You can do it on text tweets, whatever you're doing. Get in the habit of opening it up to your audience. Finally, my favorite new thing that Twitter has come out with that I'm experimenting with a lot right now is long form tweets. Long form tweets. And these are just tweets where they're not threads. They're just tweets where you type a lot and it gets cut off like this when it shows up on someone's timeline. And they click expand and show more. And then you could have thousands and thousands. I don't remember what the character limit is, but you could write forever in these. And what are these doing? Well, they're getting people to spend more time. Remember, they're getting people to spend a ton of time reading what you wrote because there's more to read. So it just literally takes them longer. And if it's good, they're going to get sucked in and they're going to read the whole thing. Next thing you know, they've spent 3 minutes reading this piece of content and the algorithm's like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. We want to share this with as many people as possible because everyone who sees it is spending multiple minutes reading it. That is what the algorithm wants. And that's why these long form tweets are really outperforming right now, because they're getting people to spend. I mean, think about it. You could see a one-liner tweet that someone might see in their timeline and engage with it for half a second. For something like this, they're going to be like, oh, show more. And then they open it up and realize it's a blog post, basically. And they're going to go read it and spend a ton more time on it. Which is why you see it gets these outsized impressions, 2.5 million, 2 million impressions, and tons of profile visits. I gained 2,000 followers over the course of a couple of days from this one piece of content. And it was all because it was getting pushed in the algorithm because it was longer and people were spending more time engaging with it. So if you can get people's attention and hold it for longer, you're going to get rewarded with more impressions. If you get rewarded with more impressions, you get rewarded with more profile visits. If you get more profile visits, you gain more followers. All right. So those are the types of growth-focused content that I want to talk about in this lesson. And the next thing we're going to talk about is a couple of really quick, hard-hitting, quick hitting strategies that you can use to maximize your growth organically through your own power. And the first thing is you want to retweet yourself often. Retweet yourself often. So many people miss out on this, but think about it. Your audience is not all online at the exact same time. They're just not. And so when you tweet, only a tiny fraction of your audience is sitting on their phone at that live moment, at that moment that your tweet goes live and it's posted to your timeline. Then as the day goes on, your stuff is going to get swallowed up by all the content from all the other people your followers are following. And the way to combat this as best you can is to retweet yourself throughout the day. So Tweet Hunter used to have a feature where you could do it every 2 hours. You could set it to do it automatically every 2 hours. Apparently, Twitter didn't take kindly to that feature because it was like considered spam or whatever. So they got rid of it. But regardless, you want to liberally retweet yourself. What I do is just every 2 to 3 hours for the first 12 hours. I'm not crazy. I don't have a crazy system for it or anything. I just, when I think about it, boom, go in there, retweet it, easy. And then again, maybe after 24 hours, do it one more time. And you can still use some of the tweet schedulers to automate some of this stuff, but it's just, to me, just freaking do it. People over automate. People try to set up systems and automate crap when they don't need to before they've even done the thing. And it when I see someone trying to systematize a business that doesn't exist yet, I know that they're wasting time. So just freaking do it. Just go in there and mash retweet every few hours. Doesn't take any time. All right, and so similar to retweeting yourself, another way that we get our stuff seen by the highest proportion of our followers possible quickly, because remember, speed matters. I can't remember if I said that actually, but the more recent your content is, the more likely it is to catch on. So to do that, we want to post at the optimal time, because the algorithm does have this recency bias, as I call it. So it's going to favor fresher, newer stuff over stuff from a week ago, because it's always looking for that next thing that's going to go viral, that's going to get people spending a ton of time on the app. For most people, the optimal time to put something out is you want to put something out in the morning hours of Eastern Standard Time. Unless like all of your followers are in India or something and you're Indian and that's all you care about. If you have a global audience and you want the kind of more quote unquote affluent Western audience, the greatest proportion of those people are on the East Coast in the US. And so you want to post something when in the morning time, when they're kind of getting to work, they're procrastinating, they're sorting through their email, they're sitting there scrolling their phone. That's when the greatest proportion of people are going to be online that are your kind of people that you want following you, is that kind of 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's when I try to get something out every single day. And then I might tweet again in the afternoon if I have something else, but really I just want to get something out in that morning and let it run for the whole day. So as long as you're using morning Eastern Standard Time for your best stuff, you're going to be in good shape. Okay. So that covers, and then I'll say here, afternoons, weekends, evenings. Just think of how people's brains work. they're less caffeinated, they're tired from the day at the end of the day, and they're relaxing on the weekends. So don't post your denser, more thought intensive stuff at these times. Post the lighter stuff in the afternoons, on the weekends, and the evenings, and post your denser, heavier stuff in the mornings when people are caffeinated and they're looking for something to distract them from their 9 to 5s that they can't stand. Okay. So now, are you ready for the big secret that I promised? That covers everything except for my last piece of advice when it comes to growing on Twitter the right way, organically, with engaged followers who are excited about you and excited about your mission and excited about what you're doing. Are you ready for the big secret? Here it is. Write good content. Write good content. That's it. That's the big secret. So we've talked about how this new algorithm optimizes for time spent engaging over everything else. Well, what's the best way to maximize the time that people spend engaging is to write good stuff that people actually want to read. Write stuff that actually makes them feel something. Write stuff that actually teaches them something. Write stuff that they're proud to share because it's so good they want to be associated with it. Write stuff that gets people talking. All of these things are downstream from creating good, solid content day in and day out that people actually care about. So do that, and then people are going to spend the time, and it's going to get boosted in the algorithm. Thank you all for being here today. And for your homework, what I want you to do is I want you to write one of the account definition tweets, post it in the chat. We can give you some feedback on it. And then post a long form tweet and measure the difference in impressions that you get versus off one of your shorter pieces of content. So do a little likes to impressions ratio, check out your long form tweet, and you'll actually see that it's probably getting what we would call a quote worse ratio. But remember, on something like that, that's actually good because it means the algorithm is pushing it because people are spending more time on it. All right. So thank you all again for a great lesson today. I'll have a few more lessons as we go through CPP. Thank you for being a great group. Ask any questions you have in the chat, and we will talk soon. Hey, everybody.